My brother and his wife took over my late mom's house, saying, "You're not welcome here anymore." When they left for their honeymoon, I took back what was rightfully mine. When they returned and found themselves homeless, their faces went pale because this story still pisses me off when I think about it. I never wanted things to get this ugly. But when people push you too far and mess with what's yours, sometimes you have no choice but to show them you're not a doormat. My mom passed away last year. It still feels weird to say that. She was 71. It wasn't sudden, not really. She had been dealing with health issues for a while, heart problems, some mobility issues. But when it finally happened, it hit like a truck. I lived with her for the last 3 years of her life. Not just living under her roof, I took care of her. Took her to her doctor's appointments. Cleaned the house. Cooked most of her meals. Made sure her pills were sorted. I also paid for most of the utilities. The place was old and needed work, and I did it. Roof repairs, furnace replacement, water heater, I paid for all of it out of pocket. My brother Neil? He lived 2 hours away. He came around on holidays. Sometimes. Usually late. Usually drunk. I don't say that to be spiteful, it's just the truth. We weren't close. Never really were. He was Mom's baby. She always cut him slack. Meanwhile, I was the oldest. I was the responsible one. The one who held a steady job. The one who put my own life on hold to take care of her. She didn't leave a will. I asked her to many times. Told her it was important. But she always brushed it off, saying, "You and Neil will figure it out. I trust you both." Yeah. Right. After the funeral, Neil started acting strange. Real slick. Didn't look sad. Didn't cry. He and his girlfriend, Camila, started asking questions about the house. "Has the deed been transferred yet? What's the appraisal value? Have you thought about selling?" I told them I had no plans to sell. I lived there. It was my home too. I took care of it and Mom. They acted like I was being selfish. Then it got worse. One afternoon I came home from work, and my key didn't work. I thought I was going crazy. Tried it again, still didn't turn. I walked around the house and saw a locksmith van parked a block down. Turns out Neil had come by earlier that day and had the locks changed. I called him. He didn't even deny it. Said, "You don't own the place, man. We're co-heirs. You can't just squat there forever. It's time to move on. Camila and I are gonna renovate it. Maybe flip it." I lost it. I told him I lived there. Took care of the house. That it was mine in every way that counted. He just laughed and said if I didn't like it, I should get a lawyer. I did. But lawyers aren't cheap, and I don't have deep pockets. He filed papers claiming I was illegally occupying the house and owed him rent for the last year. Tried to paint me as some deadbeat brother who refused to leave. Meanwhile, Camila was posting pictures on Instagram. She tagged herself in the house. Called it our dream project. Posted videos of paint swatches and ideas for tearing down walls. They hadn't even won anything in court yet, and they were already acting like they owned it. I was forced to crash on my friend Jeremy's couch for a few weeks. Felt humiliated. I'd gone from caregiver and homeowner to being tossed out like trash. Then I remembered something. About 2 years before Mom passed, she told me she had a safe deposit box. She gave me access in case anything happened to her. Said it was mostly old documents and family stuff. I hadn't thought about it since. I went to the bank. Showed my ID. Gave them the key. Inside was a bunch of old photos. Her birth certificate. My dad's discharge papers. And an envelope with my name on it. It was her handwriting. Inside was a letter. And a will. A notarized will. She'd written it 5 years ago. In it, she left me everything. The house, her car, even her old jewelry. There was a note at the bottom. "Neil has his own life. You've been here for me. This is yours." I sat in my car and cried. Then I drove straight to a probate attorney and handed it over. The court date was still weeks away. But my lawyer filed for an emergency review. The judge granted a pause on Neil's case until the will could be verified. Neil and Camila had no clue. Then, perfect timing, they left for their honeymoon. 2 weeks in the Bahamas. Paid for with what I later found out was money from Mom's checking account. He'd emptied it within days of her death. I have no proof of what it was spent on, but the timeline tells its own story. While they were gone, my lawyer got the go-ahead from the court for temporary property control, due to the existence of the new will. The will hadn't been validated yet, but it was enough to put the brakes on any renovations or flipping. That was all I needed. I walked into the house. Changed every lock. Took every single thing they had brought in, those ugly white rugs, the modern art, the bar cart, and put it all neatly in the garage. Labeled everything. Taped the boxes shut. I even took pictures in case they tried to say I'd broken anything. I spent the next 4 days scrubbing the house top to bottom. Put Mom's pictures back on the walls. Put her cross-stitch back in the hallway. I made it feel like home again. Not because I was living in the past, but because they tried to erase her. Then I sat back and waited. They got back from the Bahamas on a Tuesday. I knew because Camila posted an airport selfie with the caption, "Back to the grind." When they pulled into the driveway and saw my car parked there, I could see the confusion on their faces through the blinds. Neil tried to open the front door. Obviously didn't work. Then I heard the banging. I opened the door and stood there. Calm as I could be. Camila shouted, "What the F is this?" Neil said, "You can't be here, man." We had an agreement. I said, "No. You had a plan. And it just got cancelled." Then I handed them a copy of the will. Camila stopped talking. Neil turned pale. He read the first paragraph, then looked up at me and said, "This is fake." I told him, "Take it up with the court. The original is with the judge now." He stormed off the porch. Camila stood there frozen. She looked like she was trying to do the math in her head. How much money they spent. How much they thought they'd make. And how fast it had all turned to dust. They drove off without another word. The next week, they tried to contest the will. The judge shut it down. The signature was real. The notary checked out. The date? 5 years before Mom died. Now they were out thousands from whatever renovations they'd planned. Out the money they spent on the honeymoon. And now? Out of a place to live. About a week after they left my porch with their jaws on the ground, I figured that was the end of it for a while. I was wrong. Neil started blowing up my phone. First texts, then voicemails. The tone shifted fast. He went from pretending to be confused to getting angry. "You think you won? This isn't over. Camila says we can still contest this. You messed with the paperwork. You're gonna regret this. I swear. This is still my house." I stopped answering. I let my lawyer handle it. But then the weird stuff started. I came home one night from work and found a dead raccoon on my porch. Could have been random, sure. Except it had a ribbon tied around its neck. A blue ribbon. Camila had this thing for blue ribbon decor. She tied it around their wedding centerpieces. Posted about it nonstop. Blue equals loyalty. She'd written in one caption. It creeped me out. Called the cops. They took a report, but there wasn't much they could do without proof. No cameras. My dumb fault for not setting them up sooner. I bought a full security system the next day. 2 nights later, I got home to find someone had thrown raw eggs at the front window. Same night, someone left a fake eviction notice taped to the door. Printed out. Looked real at first. Said I had 72 hours to vacate. My lawyer laughed when I showed it to her. But I didn't think it was funny. This was my home. I'd worked to keep it standing. I had cared for Mom here. And now these 2 clowns were trying to spook me out of it like some bad horror movie. The next morning, I drove past the old garage Camila rented as a business studio, downtown. It was closed. For lease again. Her little interior design project had folded. Word was, she tried to line up deals based on flipping the house, probably planning to show off her before and after portfolio using my mother's place. No house, no flip, no cash. I figured they'd give up eventually. But they didn't. One Sunday afternoon, someone slashed the tires on my truck. All 4. Nothing stolen. Just 4 clean slashes. I called the police again. This time, they actually dusted for prints. No match. No cameras saw anything. But it was too targeted to be random. I filed for a restraining order. The judge approved it based on the harassment record, voicemail logs, and the previous police reports. The next twist came a week later. A certified letter arrived. From a lawyer. A new one. Not the one Neil used before. Inside was a claim. They were suing me for theft of personal property. Said I'd stolen jointly owned furniture and appliances from the house and locked it away. I wasn't even mad. I laughed. All the stuff they brought in. It was in the garage. Labeled, protected, untouched. I had photos. Timestamps. Witnesses. Even the movers I'd hired to help me pack it up had signed a list of the items. We responded with evidence. The claim got tossed in less than 2 weeks. That should have been the final straw, right? Nope. 2 days after that, I get a knock at the door. I checked the camera first. Wasn't Neil. Wasn't Camila. It was a woman in her mid-60s. Looked familiar, but I couldn't place her. She introduced herself as Loretta, Camila's mother. She asked to come inside? I said no. She said, I just want to talk. Just 10 minutes. Please. Against my better judgment, I let her stand on the porch while I stepped outside. She tried to play the pity angle. Said her daughter was devastated. That Neil had been led on to believe he would get the house. That this whole thing had shattered their future. I told her they didn't have a future built on honesty. And I wasn't the one who shattered anything. Then she dropped the twist. I just think you should know. Neil is saying the will is fake. I stood still. You're late, I said. He's already tried that. She shook her head. No. He says there's another will? A newer one. One that leaves it to both of you. I laughed. Out loud. Couldn't help it. There is no newer will, I told her. And if one shows up, it'll be a forgery. I hope your daughter doesn't get roped into perjury. She looked a little startled. Then she told me something I wasn't expecting. Camila's pregnant. I blinked. She's 3 months in. And they're staying with us now. They don't have anywhere else to go. I'm not saying you owe them anything. But maybe think about the baby. I didn't respond. After she left, I stood in the hallway for a while. Just thinking. That little part of me, the part that still remembered being Neil's big brother, wanted to feel something. But I didn't. I just felt tired. Then I started wondering, if Camila is pregnant, does this mean they're going to try something new? A sympathy angle? A public sob story? I told my lawyer the next morning. She nodded and said, We'll be ready if they try to make this about more than just property. I thought that was it. But Neil always had one more trick up his sleeve. That night I got an alert on my phone. Backyard motion sensor. I checked the camera feed. Someone was crouched by the back fence, just out of view of the spotlight. I flipped the lights on. Grabbed a flashlight. When I opened the back door, I saw them sprint down the alley. Didn't get a look. But they left something behind. A bag. Inside, a crowbar. A ski mask. A bottle of lighter fluid. I called the cops. This time, they took it very seriously. There was a fingerprint on the cap of the lighter fluid. It wasn't Neil's. But it matched someone already in the system. A guy named Craig, who had been arrested for arson 2 years earlier. Guess what else? Craig was one of Neil's drinking buddies. Cops paid him a visit. He cracked fast. Said Neil promised him $1,000 to trash the backyard and scare the guy. He was arrested on the spot. And Neil? Now he was looking at conspiracy to commit property damage. Maybe more. Depends on what else the cops could prove. That was a month ago. And it's not over yet. Because now I'm hearing whispers that Camila wants to file her own lawsuit. Says the emotional distress of losing her home caused health complications during her pregnancy. It just never ends. But here's the thing, they picked this fight. And I'm not moving an inch. After Craig got arrested and gave his statement, the police wanted to talk to Neil. I figured they'd give him a slap on the wrist, maybe a warning. But the detective I spoke to said the DA was taking this seriously. Apparently, this wasn't just property damage. They were considering attempted arson. You leave a ski mask and lighter fluid by someone's back door, and it's not hard to connect dots. The crazy part? Neil still didn't stop. A week later, I got a notification from the county assessor's office. Someone had submitted a property dispute form claiming that the transfer of ownership into my name was fraudulent. No lawyer listed. Just some official-looking forms and a signature. Neil's signature. He really thought he could just file paperwork and pause everything. But he wasn't even smart enough to spell my last name correctly on the form. My lawyer handled it within 48 hours. But she said something I didn't expect. This isn't about winning for him anymore. He knows he lost. He's just trying to ruin your peace. And she was right. A few days later, I noticed strange cars parked across the street. Same gray sedan, same beat-up red Honda. No plates in the front. Different drivers. Just sitting there for an hour or two, then driving off. I got the plates on camera and gave them to the detective. He ran them. Both belonged to a towing company in a different county. A company that, funny enough, Camila had tagged on her Instagram once, months ago, when they moved a renovation delivery. So now they're hiring people to stalk me? It felt insane. But also sad. Because I knew they were running out of money. Camila had gone quiet online. Her business page disappeared. Her Facebook was wiped. Neil's social media had been set to private. Then came the day I didn't expect at all. I got a call from a number I didn't know. I usually ignore those. But something told me to answer. It was Camila. She started off calm. Too calm. I just want to talk. I think we all need to take a step back and think about what's best. I let her talk. This isn't good for anyone. We're about to be parents. We're trying to start a family, and this stress is hurting everyone involved. I asked her what she wanted. Let's split the house. Co-own it. Neil and I live in the guest room. You take the main floor. Or maybe we alternate months. We can make it work. I'm willing to be civil. I stayed silent for a long second. Then I said, Do you think I forgot about the lighter fluid? She didn't respond. I said, Do you think I'm going to share a home with people who had someone try to burn it down? Still nothing. Then I said, Tell Neil to stop. He's not going to get what he wants. And you're not a victim in this. You're not the one who cleaned Mom's bedpans. I hung up. The next morning, a pastor showed up at my door. Not kidding. Said he was from their church. Wanted to mediate. Said he'd heard about family troubles. I told him the full story in 5 minutes. Watched the color drain from his face. He apologized and left. 3 hours later, I got a text from Neil. You're dragging our name through the mud. You've humiliated us. You win, okay? You win. Just stop. But I knew better. Because 3 days after that, I got a call from the detective. They'd interviewed another one of Neil's friends. This guy, Danny, admitted Neil had asked him to plant drugs in my truck. Said he turned him down, but the fact that Neil was even thinking about doing that? Unreal. The detective told me something else. They were now preparing formal charges against Neil. Not just conspiracy. Intimidation, harassment, and criminal mischief. He might be facing real time if the DA pushed it. And I still haven't told you the wildest part. A letter showed up in my mailbox. Typed. No return address. Just one sheet of paper, printed clean, no envelope. Your mother didn't love you. She pitied you. She knew you'd never be anything without her. You stole from your brother, and he'll never forgive you. You'll die alone in that empty house, just like she did. I read it once. Then again. My hands were shaking. I didn't recognize the handwriting, because it was typed, but there were 2 fingerprints on it. One partial. One full. The detective picked it up the same day. The full print? Camila's. Now it wasn't just Neil in the system. They were both circling the drain. The thing is, I wasn't even looking for revenge at first. I just wanted to live in my own house. In peace. But now I want something more. It was the neighborhood block party that set everything on fire. Literally and metaphorically. Every year, the old lady 3 houses down, Miss Eleanor, throws a spring gathering. Folding tables in the yard, cheap catered barbecue, kids running around with face paint. Everyone's welcome. Everyone knows everyone's business. You can't fake anything for long around here. I almost didn't go. After everything that happened, I didn't feel like being social. But Jeremy, my buddy who let me crash on his couch during the worst of it, convinced me. So I went. Figured I'd show my face for 30 minutes, shake a few hands, drink a warm soda, then leave. What I didn't know was that Neil and Camila would be there too. Turns out Camila's mom lived 2 streets over. Small world. Smaller town. I saw them from across the yard. Neil looked tired. Bigger beard than usual. Puffy eyes. Camila still had that polished look, but something was different. Less shine. More tension in her shoulders. We made eye contact. She looked away first. I was ready to leave. No good was going to come of this. Then Miss Eleanor called everyone to gather around the main table for some dumb neighbor appreciation speech. And that's when Camila spoke. Loud. To no one in particular. But enough for half the yard to hear. Some people act like saints, but they're just bitter men who couldn't hold a family together. I turned. People looked confused. Eleanor froze mid-sentence. Neil tried to pull her back. She shook his arm off. Let's talk about real stories, huh? She continued. Like how some people steal from their own mother. Throw their pregnant sister-in-law out onto the street. People murmured. Jeremy stepped beside me and whispered. Do you want me to say something? I shook my head. Walked forward. I said calmly. Camila, do you really want to do this? In front of all these people? She didn't blink. You kicked us out like dogs. Neil gave up everything for this family. And you threw it in his face. I nodded. All right. Then I turned to everyone. I lived in that house with my mom for 3 years. Bathed her. Fed her. Cleaned her when she couldn't use the bathroom on her own. Neil showed up twice a year and called that love. When she died, he locked me out of the house. Changed the locks. Tried to sell it under my feet. Said I didn't belong there. People started whispering. Eleanor gasped. He told people I was squatting, that I was stealing, that I had no right to be there. But my mom did write a will. Left it all to me. Every word of it legal, notarized, and verified in court. Camila laughed. But it wasn't a confident laugh. It was a covering up a shiver laugh. I stepped forward again. And since we're telling stories, let's talk about the bag of lighter fluid left behind my house. The mask. The crowbar. The fingerprints. The guy you paid. The letter with your prints on it. All of it part of the police file now. Neil's still waiting for a court date. That shut everything down. You could hear the birds. The ice clinking in cheap plastic cups. Camila opened her mouth but nothing came out. Neil didn't say a word. Someone behind me whispered, "Jesus Christ." Camila's mother rushed over, grabbed her arm, and hissed something under her breath. Camila shook free, stared at me one last time, eyes full of something I can't even describe, and stormed off. Neil stayed frozen. People avoided eye contact with him. Jeremy clapped his hand on my shoulder. "Well," he said. "That went well. The aftermath was weird. No fire. No screaming. Just cold silence." A week later, I got a letter from Neil's lawyer. Neil was agreeing to a plea deal. Minimal sentence. Community service. Fines. Probation. No contest to conspiracy and harassment. If he kept his nose clean, it wouldn't go on his permanent record. Camila wasn't charged, but she was formally warned. Any more stunts, and she'd be in trouble too. Camila moved back in with her mom. Gave birth to a baby girl a month later. I don't know if she and Neil are still together. I don't care. Neil never apologized. Never called. Never texted. Just disappeared. Like a chapter you close without ever finishing the last sentence. Miss Eleanor brings it up sometimes. "Your brother had good hair," she says. "Shame he lost his mind." Jeremy thinks I should be proud. That I won. But I don't feel like I won. I feel like I buried something. Deep. And it'll stay buried. There's this spot in the living room. Right where Mom's recliner used to be. Sometimes I sit there at night with the lights off. And I try to remember her voice. The way she used to hum to herself when folding laundry. Or how she'd scold me for leaving dishes in the sink. But the thing I hear the most? Her saying, "You and Neil will figure it out. I trust you." She was wrong. We didn't figure it out. We broke it beyond repair. Sometimes I wonder what she'd think of everything that happened. Would she blame me? Would she understand? I don't know. I just know I live in her house now. Alone. And it's quiet. Too quiet. But at least it's mine.